So hi and welcome to my slow descent into madness part 2, or the sequel. Gonna blacken the shoulders again. This time I'm doing these first, and then I'll do the helmet. Clean these up as best as I could on a buffing wheel, and I just got done rubbing them down with some good old rubbing alcohol, clean them up, and we're gonna see how this turns out. Remembering from the last time, we're doing a very, very thin but even layer on all these guys. It sits for a minute, then we're going to rinse with cold water, wipe dry, lightly buff with steel wool, slather and repeat. Steel wool, good old Birchwood Casey stuff. Yeah, nothing to it but to do it, I guess. Rubber gloves, safety, and don't eat this stuff. You will not have a good time. So just a little bitty. See, there's hardly anything in there. On there, I should say. And then we're going to spread it around. Maybe a tiny bit more. There we go. There we go. Make sure the whole piece is coated. Right, so something like this, which is hard to... Never mind, nothing happened. You saw nothing. I'm gonna edit that out. Let me see if I can shed some light on the situation. Did that do anything for us? Certainly looks darker already. Set that aside, on to the next piece. So, yeah. I'm gonna say about the size of a dime for one of these little shoulder pieces. Should be plenty. And we just get that spread on here, thin but even. There we go. Make sure the whole piece is covered. Set it aside. So I'm gonna do that for these other pieces, slightly bigger, and then I'll go ahead and let them sit for a minute, give them a rinse, come back and try to give you a better look at what they look like after one go round. So bear with me, back in a flash. Right, well, that's one, I don't know what I want to call it, one treatment. It was slathered, it was cleaned, then lathered, then rinsed, then lightly buffed, then cleaned with rubbing alcohol again, and we're about to move on to stage 2. But I gotta say, I'm almost optimistic here, just because of the way Like these, I feel like these look a lot darker and smoother on this first go around, you know, this time doing it than it did the last time I did this. So cautiously optimistic this will work. So on to the second coat. Back in a flash. Alright, so that's after round 2. You can kind of see my reflection in that one. So I think this is working. Again, cautious optimism. Gonna do a couple more rounds and we'll see how this goes. But yeah, cautiously optimistic. Okay, so round 4, just rinse them off in cold water and then very lightly just used one of these shop towels to very, again, lightly wipe them dry. Thought I'd bring you in on this part of the process just so you could see. Steel wool, this is what they're looking like currently. Little streaky, but pretty dark, so that's awesome. I'm hoping, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit them with the steel wool real quick, lightly buff them with this pretty fine steel wool, and then after lightly buffing them, and this I think helps blend it. So method to the madness here, I'm basically buffing against the grain of the brush strokes and then doing little circles around the whole thing. And I think the idea is that it kind of blends it and helps get rid of some of those streaks. So you buff the whole thing down and set it aside. And you go through and you do all the pieces. Again, this is a light buffing. You don't want to like really put a whole bunch of elbow grease into it because you have a chance of just lifting off all of the blackening that you have just done. And you don't want to do that. You want this to really get into the metal so that it's, you know, somewhat permanent. Buff, 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 buff. That looks all right. There we go. So again, going against the grain, or against the 90 degrees to the strokes of the paintbrush. And then the little circles all over the piece to kind of try to blend it all together. A nice, smooth, uniform look, you know. The idea is blackening the armor, not tiger striping it. So, almost done with this part. I really do suggest trying to do this in a well-lit room. I mean, this isn't horrible, but it's not ideal. I have the window open, but these are not east-west facing windows, so, you know. But it's all white. you know, you do what you can. All right, good enough. So at this point, by the way, shop towels, these things are awesome. Highly, highly recommend. So at this point, handy dandy rubbing alcohol. Have a nice surface that you don't care if it gets, you know, stuff on it. Me, I have an old Gatorade towel laying on the table here. My dad was the superintendent for Purdue Athletics for a lot of years, and when they were done with the towels, they would just throw them away. So I've got, or at least I had, a bucket of these things because Gatorade sponsored Purdue Athletics. So I use them as shop towels, as in this case a table protector and an absorbing mat for the excess rubbing alcohol and whatnot that spills over. So this is a little more elbow grease than when I was just drying them, but it's still, I'm not scrubbing this, you know, I'm not getting in there. I'm just wiping the excess off. Basically what we're doing here is a controlled rust. So this is getting rid of those little particles and metal and whatnot that are coming to the surface and just kind of blending it all in. The idea being, we're going to hit this, I'm going to hit this one more time. I want to really get this as dark as I can. So I'm going to hit it at least one more time. Just wanted to show you this part of the process real quick. Because again, I want this like black. And it is pretty dark. It does look pretty cool right now. So, you know, if it only gets a shade darker, then okay, fine. I can definitely live with that. But we're going to hit it one more time, at least, and see where that goes. Very last step is the good old frog lube, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So, again, back in a flash. Okay. Last step. Been clean, buffed, wiped down with rubbing alcohol. The very last thing you have to do is put a protectorant on it and then let it cure overnight. I am now using this awesome stuff called frog lube. It's this minty green paste. It actually smells minty. Smells really good. Don't eat it. But you get a little bit on your shop towel and you just rub it in. And just get a nice thin film over the whole piece. And that will kind of seal everything in and protect it. And I did, so all of my armor is mild, and I did a lot of research on the internet about how to keep mild steel from rusting, and my research led me to this guy who did a lot more practical research, and he went out and bought like 40 different commercially available rust protecting sprays and pastes and, you know, all that good stuff. 30 to 40. And what he did was he cut up the same number of mild steel plates plus one for a control, and he put every different type of he had one plate for each type of protectorant, and he coated them all in the different things except for that one control, and he set them on a rack out in his backyard and just left them there. And he left them there for a solid year. We're talking rain, sleet, snow, these little pieces of metal just out there in the elements. And after a full year of being out there in the weather, the stuff that he put the frog lube on didn't even have one single dot of rust on it. I have been using this for a little while now. I've got some lovely blackened knees and greaves, and I put this stuff on those, gave them a nice cleaning and washed them down with this stuff. And you know, you fight in the armor, you sweat in it, and after you sweat in it all day, you put it in your armor bag and you take it home, and then you mean to take it all out and lay it out and clean it and make sure it's going to be safe, but you know, sometimes you forget. Well, I forgot, and that stuff was in a sweaty armor bag for months, and there's not a spot of rust on them. So I am sealing the shoulders with the frog lube. That's my 2-minute commercial for this stuff. And we're going to let them cure overnight, and then in the morning I'll snap a picture of them, hopefully in some good lighting. But that, my friends, is that. Catch you later. Bye.